Really appreciate everybody being here today. Appreciate NPGA allowing us to do this and giving us a platform to have discussions with you guys over topics that you feel are important. I hope you find that this fits your needs and maybe you get something out of it. So we'll see what happens here. Thank you to Sierra and Mandy. I gave a presentation last year here at NPGA on bobtail pre-trip inspections, and afterwards Sierra and Mandy solicited the group on ideas for this year's topics. I made a suggestion of ergonomics and did not suggest that I be the one that gave the presentation, but so I've said before, guess who has two thumbs and won't be making any more suggestions? This guy. So Mandy is our trade show coordinator, PowerPoint extraordinaire. She helped me with all this stuff. She did all the PowerPoint here, and Mandy obviously was huge in giving me feedback and helping me kind of refine this. So what is ergonomics? This is an overview. What is ergonomics? Why is it important and necessary? And what does it look like? Ergonomics and driver comfort. So we're going to talk about the problem, the OEM solutions that we're going to see, that we're starting to see more and more of from the chassis OEMs, as well as bodybuilder solutions. So for people like Westmor, what are we doing to help with the problems? What is ergonomics? So this is sort of a definition I found. You can find different definitions, but this is the one I found most helpful. It's the science of designing or arranging workplaces, products, and systems to fit the people who use them. The use of tools of design to improve workspaces and environment to minimize the risk of injury or harm and increase comfort and ease of use. I think that's a pretty comprehensive definition. If you go and search for ergonomics and look at who sort of developed this part of science, you come up with a few different names, and I picked out two of them here that I thought were interesting. So Niles Deffren is an industrial designer. He's most notable for the office chair design. So people who, the fancy office chairs that have the right height on your arms, the proper angle on your back, support in the right areas. That was a point of study for Niles Deffren. He also happened to be an ice dancer. I don't know why I thought that was interesting, but I did. Alphonse Chapanis is an industrial designer too. Most notably, he was instrumental in cockpit design in the aviation industry, as well as he worked for Bell Labs and developed the layout of keyboards on phones. So that's something that he's sort of known for. So ergonomics is, the word itself is of Greek origin, two words, ergo or ergon meaning work, and nomi meaning natural law. So the data that we're going to use, the techniques of ergonomics: anthropometry, I hope I'm saying that right, body shapes, sizes, populations, and variations; biomechanics, muscles, levers, force, strength; environmental physics, so noise, light, heat, cold; radiation, vibration in the body systems; hearing and vision and sensations. Hello. Applied psychology, skill, learning, errors, and differences; and social psychology, groups, communication, and learning behaviors. So here are some buzzwords that I pulled together when you're thinking about ergonomics, when you're looking at your fleet, when you're looking at your operation: push, pull, twist, turn, rotate, jerk, posture, bend, reach, a deviation from normal, and circumduction. Now, circumduction is something that you may not use in everyday life, but I'll tell you a story. I was sitting watching football with my son, my 10-year-old son, and a commercial came on that had an old truck in it. And the people in the truck cranked the windows down by hand. And my son said, "Dad, what is he doing?" I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "What's he doing with his arm there?" I said, "He's rolling the windows down, son. Before you were born, we actually had manual handles." So I don't know if that means I'm a good dad or a bad dad that he didn't know what it meant to crank actual windows. But that motion, that twisting motion, that turning motion is a circumduction motion. So why it's necessary: driver demographic change, we'll get into that a little bit, and anthropometric changes. What we're trying to do here is we're trying to retain our drivers. Anybody here just overly flush with drivers? Too many drivers in your fleet? No? Yeah. So we're trying to keep the turnover low, retain drivers as much as possible. We're trying to lower the rate of incidents and accidents for our drivers, and we're also trying to increase throughput. So we want to design systems that do these three things, as well as decrease risk and lower the level of liability for fleets, for owners, for people in the value chain. So I thought this was interesting. Fleets find themselves defending upfit specifications against negligence allegations that result from push, pull, lift, or bending injuries. For example, the average workers' compensation cost for a pushing or pulling injury is more than $10,000. While the average cost for a lifting or bending incident is more than $9,000. So when you develop your specs for your fleet, when the cost comes in, look at what you're spending and look at what you might be saving. It only takes one incident to really change the equation on what we should do when we're speccing out our equipment. Ergonomics and driver comfort. And here's part of the problem. So when interior cabs were designed, they were based on an average driver weight of 150 pounds. A recent study that we have linked down here at the bottom shows that drivers are on average a ½ inch shorter and 30 pounds heavier than the general population. And when we talk about demographics change, this is what I mean. So fully a third of drivers are under the age of 40 in the metrics that we've seen and that I've seen here in this study. 2/3 of your drivers are over 40. So those are the people that we really need to make sure that we cater to, that we help, we make their job as easy as possible. So I'm going to start talking a little bit about the OEMs, and when I say OEM, that just means chassis manufacturer. This is some of the stuff that we've seen that they're doing to help this issue. They're making considerable effort to lower steps on trucks, to increase the number of grab handles. We have our Western Star chassis salesman here with us today, and he came and gave us a presentation around the new Western Star. I'm not trying to give a commercial for Western Star, but one of the things I noticed when he opened the door, everything was a grab handle. Everything, the pocket in the door, there's the seat over here, over there. There's grab handles everywhere. They're also doing a lot to increase visibility in these chassis, so bigger windshields. The cab design is more friendly to visibility. Seat design, we all know that seats have come a long way in the last 25 years. The seats that they have in these trucks now are super, super, super nice, comfortable, and anatomically sound. So if we go back to Niles Deffert and what he did in the office chair space, I'm assuming that a lot of that translates to this as well. Also on the OEM side, advanced driver assistance systems, or ADASs. So we have several levels here. Level 0 is no automation, so that's your basic car that doesn't do anything for you except go down the road. You're controlling every aspect of the car. Then you have level 1, some driving assistance, driving automation assistance, so think adaptive cruise control. Level 2, partial driving assistance. This includes things like highway pilot. Level 3, conditional driving automation, so there's certain areas where that ADAS system will take over and maybe do a little bit of the work for you. Level 4 is considered a high automation. Think parking valet. You've probably seen videos online where people can get out of their cars and hit a button and the car goes and parks itself. Level 5, full driving automation, exactly what it sounds like. Now, when you see things like Tesla cars these days that do a lot for the driver, they do a lot of adaptive cruise stuff. They can drive you up and down the road. Those are in the level 2 category. So in this scenario, we're not very high, and the reason that is because level 2 to level 3 is where liability changes from the driver to the system. So it's quite a hump to get over for the OEMs to go from being the driver being responsible for what that car does and how that car acts, to going to where the system is responsible for how that car drives and how that car acts. So there are some vehicles out there that claim, and this is not necessarily in the heavy duty world, but there are some vehicles out there that claim level 5 automation, but they're few and far between. And here's just some more examples of these ADAS systems: blind spot monitors, backup cameras, drowsiness detection. And a lot of these guys on this list are things that the chassis OEMs, heavy-duty chassis OEMs, do offer. Crash avoidance, automatic braking, adaptive cruise, lane keep, things like that. So now I want to talk a little bit about the bodybuilder solutions. So what are companies like Westmor and others doing to help the problem? So one of the things that we have here is a Westmor patented ErgoLoad deck. So we've lowered the fill lines a little bit. This helps, the older drivers love this, where they're, you know, if your bulk plant does not have swing arms and they're picking that hose up off the ground, it's a lot easier for them to get it waist height than it is to get it up shoulder height, especially if you have a driver that's, again, like I say, older, smaller in stature. It really helps them out a lot. It's another good picture of that setup. So this is right above the bumper. So lowered decks, you see that on some other manufacturers. They've lowered the whole deck, which is really nice as well. Side fill. I put this in here because, you know, it depends on where you're loading from. This may be an easier option for somebody not to have to, you know, drive the truck around, back it in as many places. Good picture of the side fill there. So we also have an option called a pathway swiveling hose reel, which allows that reel to turn. I think I got a better picture of it here. Yeah. That hose reel actually turns 90 degrees and will point out to the curb side of the vehicle. It's for a straight pull out that way. You know, functions like reel out. A lot of people don't spec reel out. I think people should consider that more. It's just less drag on the driver, less drag on their shoulders, on their lower backs. And again, what does a push-pull injury cost you if you get one? I mean, it's significant. So side delivery, again, equipment positioned more conveniently for the driver and where they load. So if your bulk plant is set up such that this helps, it could be a great option. Well, this would be on the delivery side. So maybe you have a scenario where it's just easier to pull straight in than it is back in. Maybe this is a good option to deliver right out the driver's side door. So just be thinking about others that you can come to your bodybuilders with, and I'll put a call to action here at the end of it. Just overall design customization, guys. Westmor is an expert manufacturer. We can manufacture just about anything that you can dream of, but we don't drive these trucks every day. You guys are the ones that drive, and so we appeal to you for those sort of things. So what can you do to make your fleet safer? What options do you see? What problems do you have? And so here's what I want, sort of a call to action. One of the things you can do is conduct ride-along ergonomics reviews. Note the best positioning of the trucks where they deliver from, so that you can minimize the effort of that driver during that delivery cycle, and choose the best equipment for what your driver's day looks like. And so I wanted to go back to this again. So as you think about these things, keep these in mind. Keep these words in mind as you do these ergonomic reviews. Conduct specification reviews on new equipment. Include all members of the value chain. And utilize a bell curve of those who will use the equipment, and add ergonomic friendly features to account for exceptions to that curve. So everybody's familiar with the bell curve. So maybe you have a truck that multiple drivers use. Figure out what works as good as possible for all of those, and if there are options that we need to add to make it more friendly to people on the opposite ends of the curve, then let's do that. Ask your equipment dealer or your upfitter like us for more ergonomic options, and solicit us for better designs. Push for smarter and safer solutions to ergonomic issues. With that, guys, that's all I have today. I appreciate your time. Thank you for allowing us to be here again, and stop by our booth, and love to talk to you. So thanks very much, guys.